My name's Mike Higgins. I live just out of Auckland in a place called Orewa. For those of you familiar with that, um, I actually work for the Family History Department, and very pleased to be with you today. So the presentation today is about gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. And while we're going to be thinking predominantly about those on the other side of the veil, I think that it's very interesting that probably not so long ago, we didn't used to hear that term very often, gathering Israel on both sides of the veil. So let me share my presentation with you, and we'll walk through some slides together. So to begin with, let me just give you some background about Family Search itself. Family Search, it's the largest genealogical organization in the world. Now, some of you might be familiar with some other really good websites, such as Ancestry and Find My Past, My Heritage. Those are all tremendous websites, and I use those sites often myself. But what makes Family Search different is that we're more than just a website. We have brick and mortar. We have nearly 5,000 family history centers around the world, which is incredible. So it's not about just going to a website, but people can physically go to a family history center to get help. We, of course, also have the amazing Family History Library in Salt Lake City, which is a family history center or a family history facility with more genealogical information under one roof than anywhere else in the world. We're also non-profit, volunteer driven. And as an example of that, I'm the only employee in New Zealand and throughout the Pacific. So I rely completely on wonderful volunteers. And of course, we're fully sponsored, fully funded by the church. Family Search is a separate entity, but it is fully funded by the church. Whenever I speak, especially to a church group, and I realize that today there may be others listening who are not members of our faith, and we especially welcome you here today. But there are some things about family history from a church perspective that make it incredibly important. For example, this year in 2021, the area focus that our area presidency have given our ecclesiastical leaders for the entire Pacific area, which of course includes Australia, as well as all of the Pacific Islands. The message is about hearing him, hearing our Savior. And we believe as church members that we have an opportunity to hear him more as we do this important work, because we feel that it's also a spiritual work. As part of the area focus, one of the things it mentions here is find and submit family names for temple ordinances, something that's important to us as church members. And so part of today will be helping to actually identify how to find some of those ancestors. And of course, there was this wonderful invitation from President Nelson a couple of years ago in one of our general conferences. We invite all of God's children on both sides of the veil to come unto their Savior. And I can't recollect any other time when our church leader, our prophet, and president of the church actually extended an invitation to people living on both sides of the veil. So that was significant. We also have been told by President Nelson that while worshiping in the temple is presently not possible, and that's certainly true here in New Zealand with our temple under renovations and the other not yet finished, I invite you to increase your participation in family history, including family history research and indexing. I promise that as you increase your time in temple and family history work, you will increase and improve your ability to hear him. So what a wonderful message that is for us. So today we want to help you to be successful in your family history research. I'll just show you this picture to begin with. Yes, I do love to go fishing. And the reason I put this picture here is that I think that doing family history work is a little bit like fishing. When I go fishing, I go to new places. I try new territory. I try new techniques. I listen to what other people are doing and try to see if what they're doing might make me more successful. And so when we think about family history, sometimes we've been trying something and it hasn't worked. And today I'm hoping that I can show you a few things, a few techniques that may help you. Because I don't want you to leave today feeling like this. And I think a lot of times we do feel a little bit like this. We can get frustrated because maybe we've hit some roadblocks. So the go-to place for today is familysearch.org. This is a wonderful blessing to all people because it's completely free. And I'm going to be taking you through some discovery tools today. We're going to be looking at searching the family tree itself, searching the catalog. A lot of you may not know what that means, so we'll look at that. Searching historical records, searching memories, searching by parents, another wonderful technique, searching images, which is a fairly new opportunity, and also searching oral genealogies. Now, I'm hoping to get through all of these things, so we'll see how we go today. To begin with a little bit of background, over many, many years now, Family Search has been collecting records from all over the world in different ways. For example, since the early 1990s, we started using digital cameras to go into record repository, archives and churches, government facilities, and under agreement, digitizing records with this wonderful digital equipment that we use. Prior to that, in fact, from about 1938, we used to microfilm documents, and that technology proved to be so helpful for so many years. In fact, from about 1938 right the way through to about 1990, when we got heavily into using digital equipment. Now, this picture here is interesting. You'll notice that we've got a screen and we've then got a place to put microfilm reels. So the Family Search has about 2.5 million rolls of microfilm, and one by one, those microfilm have been put onto these scanners, and the scanners actually take a digital image of each frame on the microfilm. You also may remember that over the years, sometimes the church has called and invited people to submit their 4 generations. So over many, many years, much information has been gathered, and we now have access to just about all of this at the Family Search website. So to begin with, we will look firstly at searching through the family tree. So at the top of the Family Search site, after you've logged on, you'll see this menu across the top. If you go over to Family Tree, you'll see this drop-down menu, and then just click on Find. And as you do that, you will come to this page here. And then what I'm going to do in this situation, I'm actually going to type a name of one of my own ancestors, George Coley. He was born in a place called Kent, which is a county in England, in about 1810. And then I'm going to simply click Find. Now, just keep in mind that what we're doing here, we're searching through the family tree. Now, what is the family tree? If you've used Family Search, you know that you can create your own tree within the website. So you start collecting information and building up your generations. And then you'll find that you can go back many generations, and then you'll start connecting your family lines with other people who have actually also been building their tree in this family tree part of Family Search. So right now, all we're doing is that we're searching through that massive tree containing about 1.5 billion names. So I'm searching for George Coley, born in 1810 in a county called Kent. Click find, and I come up with these results. You'll notice that just within the tree itself, there's 266 odd thousand names similar to George Coley. Now, in this particular case, the very person I'm looking at, you remember we were looking at a birth year of 1810, born in Kent. Well, this has actually selected the right person for me, because I know that George Coley was actually, I believe he was born in this little village called Cranbrook. So it shows George Coley on the left, and it shows his parents, William and Elizabeth, over there on the right. Now, if I click on George Coley's name, I come to this page. And this is the page associated with the tree where it provides all of the details about George Coley, all the information that we need. Now, what's very important here is that you'll see that there are some sources for George Coley, which means that somebody has added some source documents or material to prove that this George Coley in the tree is in fact the George Coley that we believe he is. If I click on here, I actually see the source documents. One is from England Birth and Christenings, and the other is England Wales Nonconformist Record Index. I'm going to click that bottom link, and it takes me to this record here. Now you'll notice that there's no image available. You'll see that camera on the right-hand side. It says no image available. So although we don't see the original document, what we do know is that this information was transcribed from an original document. And again, we see George Coley, event baptism, christening date, 4th of February, 1818. Now you might say, but he was born in 1810. Usually babies are christened when they're just babies. Well, that's not always the case. And we also show the christening place and the father's name and the mother's name. So this is a rich source of information that we found by searching the tree. My recommendation to you, whenever you find something in the tree, don't take it as necessarily being 100% correct, because all sorts of people are adding information. But when there's source documents attached, it gives you a much higher level of confidence that this is in fact the person that you're looking for. So we come back to George Coley, the information page, and we can scroll down. And when we do that, we see that he's there on the left, George Coley, born 1810. His parents on the right, William and Coley, William and Elizabeth. Then underneath, we see George and his siblings. Now, if I click on here, William Coley, hover over his name and click, it brings up this other window. And this is information about the father of George Coley, William. And if I click on the person icon there, it takes me then to his homepage or his detail page. So now you see the blue arrow, you see William Coley. Over to the right is his father, born about 1760. And what we can do there, we can click on his name, and it would bring up information about him. So let's now move on, and we want to look now at catalog search. So what we do, we come along to the menu bar again, we look at search, we come down to catalog, and we click on there, and we come to this page. Now, what are we doing now? What the catalog search is that we're searching for microfilm. Now, if you used to do some family history, you'll remember that you would search through microfilm in the Family History Center. And you used to be able to order microfilm in from Salt Lake, where all of our master microfilm records are kept. And so how did we used to know which microfilm to order? Well, usually what we would do, we would enter a place in this search engine. So in this case, I'm looking for any microfilm that we have about Cranbrook in Kent, England. But what I want to do now, because I can't order the microfilm anymore, I want to see what's available to view online. So I click the online button there, you see the blue button, and then I click search, and it will take me to the search results. In this case, I see that there is some church records, some indexes of church records. Underneath that, there's some civil registrations, but I'm particularly interested in looking at these church records. So I click on that line and it brings me to this page. I click on Parish Register Printout of Cranbrook, Kent, England. I click on there and it brings me to this page. Now you'll notice the blue arrow there. Next to that is a little camera icon. When we see that icon, it actually means that we can view the digital images of that microfilm on our computer from home. So I click on the icon and then it brings this up. Now, if you think of a microfilm is a roll of many, many images. So these images have all been digitized, they're all available. And you remember that this was an index of church records. So I've looked at this and I have seen that the index is in alphabetical order. And I'm looking for Coley. I'm looking for this George Coley again. And you'll see that little blue shape up the top and it says there's 1,985 images. Well, I don't want to search through 1,985 images, so I'm going to select this first because if this is in alphabetical order, I want to find C for Coley. I click on here and I see that we're on John Barrett at the top, or Thomas Barnes, and Abigail down the bottom, Thomas Bishop and Elizabeth Bishop. So I'm not in the C's yet. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to try another image further along in the stream. I click on here and I see now I'm on the C's, John, Clout and Mary. Then I come down and I see William Coley and Elizabeth. So this is exactly what I want to look for. Now I can scroll down the image because I'm not seeing the whole image yet. And now I found what I'm looking for. You see that I've underlined George Coley, born 1810, 15th of October, and his parents are William Coley and Elizabeth. You remember that I found this in the tree as well. The other interesting thing here is that I've not only found George and his parents, but I found his siblings as well, William, Robert, Thomas, Mary, and Elizabeth. So that's been a very useful find. Now, sometimes when we look for microfilm, we get a response where we've got a camera that has a key over the top of it, just like you see over there on the right. Now, what that means is that these images are locked. So I'm going to click on the camera, and what it tells me is that in order to see this image, I need to either go to a family history center, one of our church centers, or to an affiliate family history library. Now, we have a few of those around New Zealand. For example, in Auckland, the Auckland Library is affiliate, and I think all their branches as well. And we have some other affiliates around the country. But the reason that these images are locked, it's not because we choose to lock them, but it's because we don't have permission to make them completely publicly available. Those permissions come from the record custodian. So something else we want to look at now, we go back to search. So we've searched through the tree. We've learned how to use a catalog search and view those microfilm images online. And now we're going to go to record search, which is probably the most commonly used search. And what this search is all about, this will search all of the records that have not only been digitized, but they've also been indexed. And so we can search records by name here. So you'll notice here again, I'm looking for my same ancestor, George Coley. I'm looking at his birthplace being Kent, England, birth year 1810, and I'm going to hit the search button. Now, in this case, you'll see that there's 53,000 possibilities out of several billion indexed records from all over the world. But because I had a birth year and a place, it's actually found the record I'm looking for, George Coley with his parents. I click on this line and it brings me to this record. Again, there's not an actual image for this record. This information was transcribed from a document, but we have here George Coley. This is a christening record in 1818. The event place is Cranbrook, which is a village where lots of my ancestors are from. And it also gives the birth date and also the names of the parents. So it's incredible, isn't it, that by putting in a name, we're searching through billions of records and we can identify the record that we're looking at. So this is rich material. Not only have I found George, but I have confirmation of his parents, his birth date, where he was christened, and also the event place, the actual church where he was christened, a chapel on the hill, Independent. Now, sometimes when we're looking for our ancestors, we may not completely know how to spell their name correctly. In my case, I have ancestors, and it's almost every generation, the name of their surname changes, the spelling changes. And so we can use what we call a wildcard, similar to what we might use when searching the internet. So here again, I'm looking for George Coley, but I'm not sure if that's spelt with two L's, even if there's an E there, but I believe it starts with C-O-L. I believe there's a Y on the end. So I'm going to put an asterisk in between, which will then give me results from something that resembles this, but there could be a couple of L's, there could be a couple of E's, there could be no E. And again, I put the place of birth, and I've now specified Cranbrook because I know my relative was from Cranbrook. I've got the birth year, I hit search, and I come here. Now, because I'm searching through the same database of several billion records, last time I got thousands of results, but this time, because I specified Cranbrook, not just Kent, but Cranbrook, I've only got 638 results. And you'll see that George Coley was right at the top there, birth date, 15th October 1810, and his parents over to the right, William Coley and Elizabeth. Now, we can also use filters, and let me explain why this is important. Sometimes when we search, the danger of sometimes getting too specific. For example, by actually putting the village like I put Cranbrook, if I was doing a search and I put in Cranbrook, it would only look probably for records that match from Cranbrook itself. But sometimes, although we know the place where they were born, sometimes that place isn't known. And sometimes the way that the records are kept, it might be under some type of a district's name. And so sometimes when we get too specific, we may block out the very records that we're looking for. So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come back to the search engine, George Coley. I'm not going to put a birthplace. I'm not going to put a birth year. I'm just putting his name. And then I hit search. And it comes back with 352,000 possible records, because it's not just looking at for George Coley, but it's looking for derivatives of that, similar spelling and so forth. Now, I searched from all over the world, but I wanted to go broad, but now I can come down this page, and if I scroll down, I come to this area where we have filters. Now, I believe I know where my ancestor came from, so I'm going to filter firstly by birthplace. So I click on here, and down the left-hand side, I can filter I can put United Kingdom and Ireland, and you see that there's 22,000 results. So I click on that. But I also know that the person, although they were born in the United Kingdom, they were specifically born in England. And that reduces it down to 15,000. And then I can actually filter right down to the county. So I'm pretty sure that my ancestor was from Kent. So now I'm down from 352,000 results to 484, much better situation. Now, it also gives me the opportunity to filter by year range. So I click on there and I can select the 1700s, 1800s, or 1900s. Well, I'm going to select the 1800s, and there's still 455 there, but then I can select by decade. So I believe that he was born in the decade of 1810. Now I'm down to 51 potential matches. And I click on there and I'm brought here to George Coley, born 15th of October, 1810, Father William, Mother Elizabeth. So again, by starting very broad, I can use the filters to help me identify my particular ancestor. Now, one of the things that you can do in Family Search, you can also record or write memories. You can upload pictures. You can upload a audio file. You can upload a story about your ancestors. And sometimes people are uploading stories about theirs you may not even know about. So I'm going to do a memory search. So I come along to my main menu along the top. I see memories as a menu item, and I'm going to click find. I'm then going to put in here the name of my grandfather, William Frederick Higgins, and I'm going to search that to see if anybody has entered a memory about William Frederick Higgins. I click search, and I see that there is a memory here, a little story about William Frederick Higgins. I'm going to click on that, and that will actually bring me to this page here where it actually explains the story. And I also see here William Frederick Higgins on the right. If I click on there, I will then be brought to his page here. And I go to person page, and it brings up all of this information about William Frederick Higgins in the tree. So this is another way that we can find people, but not only find their names, but find perhaps pictures or stories or even an audio recording about that person. So if I slide down the page, I can see the other information as well. Now, what I wanted to mention here is that don't leave it too long to capture memories of people. And I'd be suggesting now that in your tree, not only put the information about your deceased people, but also about your living, about your children and grandchildren, and start actually recording memories and keeping pictures about them. Now, because of privacy, when you put information about living people in the tree, only you will see that. No one else will see that information until the person that you've included in there has actually died. Once the person has died, then that information becomes available. Another technique that we like to use is search using parents. Now, if I come back to this search engine again, where we search for records, you'll see that we can actually search by spouse, father, mother, or other person. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select search by father, and I'm going to put in the name here of William Coley. So I'm looking for somebody associated with William Coley, but I can also add the mother, and I simply put the name of the mother, but I just put her first name. The reason I don't put a surname is that if I was to put, for example, her maiden name, and I do a search, if the maiden name doesn't appear in a record, then I won't get the search results. And if I put the married name of the mother and I'm doing a search, it may not pick that up either. So we put the first and last name of the father, but usually what I do, I just put the first name of the mother. So what I'm basically doing, I'm looking for people that have a relationship to this person as their father, and this person here is the mother. I then hit search, and I'm also looking for people from Cranbrook, Kent, England. And then I hit search and I come up with this result. Now, the great thing here is that I found George Coley, who I was looking for before, who was the son of William and Elizabeth, and there's his information. But I've also found his siblings as well. So I basically found a complete family by searching by the parents, William Coley and Elizabeth. So that's a very, very useful way to find a complete family. We can also do a search by a country. For example, when I've been searching through records, I've actually been searching through billions of records. But sometimes we want to narrow down that search. And so we come here to search records. We come to this page, and you notice over on the right-hand side, there's a picture of the world. And I hover over the part of the world that I want to look at, and I see whether I hover over Australia or New Zealand, it will bring both our countries up, Australia and New Zealand. I select New Zealand, and then it shows me here all of the information, all the records about New Zealand. If I come down the page, it will also show me other material about New Zealand that could be useful. I come back here, and what I want to do, I actually want to look at the probate records. And this is a really wonderful collection of records. And I click on here, and it brings up the search engine. So if I was to search for a person now, I would only be searching through the probate records rather than from records all over the world. But in this case, because we've already kind of shown you how to search for a name, I want to show you something else. Down the bottom here, you can actually browse through these images. Let's say, for example, with these probate files, we're looking for a particular person. We're not so much sure about their spelling, but we believe we know where they came from and where they died. And so when I click on browse, I'm brought to this page here. And probate records are filed by way of the court that they've been filed in. And you see these courts from all over the country. So I just want to look at the probate records from Hamilton. So I click Hamilton Court. I then get all of these year ranges. So I can select the year range I want to look at, 1904 to 1907. And then at the top of the page there, you'll see that this is image 1 of 211 images. So that's not too many pages to look at in relative terms. And then what I can do, I can actually look at these images in a different way. I can look at them like this, how we looked at the microfilm images, and these are all of the pages within the probates of that year from the Hamilton court. And I might start my search, for example, here. So I click on here and I see this image here. And what I'm doing with the probate record, I'm looking for information to see who this record is about. You can increase the size of this. You can see here, this is about a record about a George Harker. Another way that we can search is we can search images. And this is another way for looking at microfilm. We kind of used this technique before, but this is another way to get there. So we go to our menu, we click search, and we go down to images, and we come to this page here. And what I'm going to do, let's say I want to see what's available, what images or what records we might have that are available for Glasgow, Scotland. I click on there, and then I see that we have these image collections for the area of Renfrew. There are other results, but I'm just looking at this first page of results. I might click on there, and again, I'm brought to this page here, and I can expand these records. They're beautiful digital records. You can expand them, and it's much easier to read the record. Now, something else that's also very, very useful is searching for oral genealogies. In New Zealand and through the Pacific, we've had some really wonderful projects where we've had people going around interviewing people and getting a recording about their oral genealogy. Now, I'm just going to show you how to find these. So we come back to our menu on our homepage, we go to search, and then we come down here to genealogies. I'm going to click on here. Now, we then come to this page here, and we can search by a name, a place, but because we just want to look for oral genealogies rather than perhaps other 4-generation genealogies that have been submitted, I come to this point here and I click on collection. And what I want to do, I just want to select oral genealogies. So now I'm only searching through oral genealogies. And there were oral genealogies collected here as well as in parts of the Pacific. And let's say I'm of Samoan descent, and the family name was Fa'alongo. So I'm going to put that in the search engine and see what results I get. And these are the results that I find of Panati, if that's how you pronounce it, Yosefa Fa'alongo, the birthplace, the marriage date, and then the spouse and children. Now I can click on this, and when the oral genealogy interviews were done, they also wrote out some other information like pedigree charts and so forth, or some other ancestral records. So I can look at this and I can start seeing some relationships. But then there's more. So I click on more. And then I have these other documents that I can look at, these PDF documents, but there's also an MP3 document here as well. So let's look at these. First of all, let's look at this lineage document. And this is how they recorded lineage and so forth in Samoa as part of these oral genealogies, but it shows the people and other relationships. It also has here a document with some useful information. This looks like a family record with parents and children and so forth. More information here about ancestors. And in this case, there's also an audio recording of that interview. Now, I couldn't actually capture the recording in this PowerPoint, but if you press that button, you can then listen to the oral recording of this oral genealogy interview. And how priceless would that be if you're searching for oral genealogies and you come across your grandfather's interview and you can listen to his voice, or a mother or a grandmother or a great grandmother's voice. You know, what a priceless treasure that is. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about hinting. This is something else which is tremendous. Hinting comes about because of the wonderful indexing work that's been done. So when you actually help with indexing records, you're helping in a major way, because not only are you indexing those records, but once a record has been indexed, you're actually, something miraculous happens, because these index records in the background start to be searched almost by robots within Family Search. And so as new records become available, new index records, these little robots scroll through all of this new information and they look for matches or potential matches in family tree. So for example, here's someone's tree, and you see these blue boxes here. This means that there is an index, or an index record that could be about this person. So we would click on that blue box. And well, first of all, when we click on the box, it brings up the person. And then we see the person, we click on there, and it comes over here, Chilean Fay Packard. And then over on the right-hand side, you see these record hints. And so what you can then do, you can select one of those to look at, and then it comes up with this information. And it shows the name, the event year, this was a census record, and other information. You can then come down to the bottom where it says review and attach, and click there. And then it will bring this page up. Now on the left-hand side is the information from the document. It's got Chilean Packard and Phoebe Packard and their approximate birth dates. On the right-hand side, this is the information from Family Tree. Now, the cool thing about this is that sometimes you'll find a record that has information that you don't yet have. Sometimes it will show a child that you didn't know about and that you can simply add to your tree in a very simple way. So when we think about family history, we're very much thinking about past, present, and future. So I've shown you today some tips about using Family Search, how to use these records, how to find information, the different parts of Family Search that we can use. But I'd also encourage you to not only think about the past, but to think about the present and start capturing those stories, and to think about the future and how the stories you capture today will be a blessing to those that will follow you. So something else I'd like to make you aware of, for the last 10 years in Salt Lake City, there's been this tremendous event called Roots Tech. And this is probably one of the biggest family events that are held anywhere in the world. Last year, about 30,000 people attended. People come from all over the world. We have New Zealanders that go up to Roots Tech each year. And quite often they're not members of our faith, but they go to this amazing event. Well, this year, because of COVID, what's happening is that the event is being held virtually for the first time. And it's going to begin on the 25th of February. And I'd like to invite you to simply go to rootstech.org and go and register. And there will be amazing information. There's all sorts of classes. And it's kind of like Netflix. You pick and choose what you want to watch. You can actually get into a chat room and chat with people about their classes. You can chat with other people, but this will be tremendous. And I mentioned that last year 30,000 people attended. Well, this year so far, over 300,000 people have pre-registered from all over the world. And we have classes in 35 different languages. Obviously, we've got a lot of classes in English, but I was looking this morning and I see that there's, for example, 35 classes in Russian and from other countries around the world. So I'd like to invite you to register and then go and have a look between the 25th and the 27th. There's also going to be some special classes for those who are members of our faith. There's going to be a tremendous leadership session there as well. So this will be tremendous, a tremendous event. And we invite you to all to attend and to share that with other people. So again, I come back to this quote that while we can't currently go to the temple, we can get engaged in this work. Family history, we can get engaged in indexing, and it'll help us feel close to our Savior and close to the Spirit and close to our family. So those were, that's basically the end of my, my presentation.